Good morning, and welcome to How Are We Here? My little series where we look at how other, older cultures, different cultures, and its people thought we got here. This time, I have a few tales of how the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster may have thought we got here. 2 decades, 20 years, 240 moons. This is when the divine truth was revealed, or maybe re-reviewed. A letter from the prophet reignited the fires of the boiling water. So after diving in to the gospel of the flying spaghetti monster and some searches across the massive interwebs, I invite you all to sit back, relax, as I tell you a tale of our origins, as revealed through satire. A condensed history of the world, 5,000 years ago, the beginning. The flying spaghetti monster created the universe and a bunch of planets, including Earth. No one except himself was around to see it, but we suspect it was rather dull. The initial creation obviously must have been spectacular, but he then spent the next 10 to 100 years painstakingly preparing the universe to appear older than it actually is. Photons were placed individually en route to Earth, ostensibly emitting millions of years ago from stars across the galaxy. In reality, we know that each photon was divinely placed and redshifted, appropriately to make the universe appear to be billions of years old. We are still finding his camouflage methods at work today. Each time scientists discover apparent evidence of a billions of years old universe, we can be assured that this is just some more elaborate preparation that he put in place. Planet Earth was created approximately 0.06 seconds and was similarly disguised to appear much, much older. We can be certain that the flying spaghetti monster spent even more time preparing the Earth, because being all knowing, he was well aware that soon enough there would be nosy people poking around everywhere, known as scientists. These nosy people, they have a sick need to figure out how things work, and it was even more important that our apparent reality be well designed to hide the truth. So, our Noodley creator then placed fossils hidden under the Earth's surface, knowing that they would be later found, thus seemingly proving that these creatures existed some time ago. Dinosaur bones, for example, were all placed so well and in such numbers that it's widely believed dinosaurs warmed the Earth millions and millions of years ago. Interestingly, dinosaurs did exist, but not millions of years ago, because of course, how could they have existed before the Earth was even here? In reality, they lived with us, alongside us, and occasionally on top of humans around 3,000 years ago. The scriptures of the Holy Noodle give us 5 days, as well as life in the garden and an eventual global flood. Let's dive into these Holy Noodle scriptures. Then the FSM said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and the flying spaghetti monster adjusted his willy eye stalks and saw that the light was good, and the flying spaghetti monster divided the light from darkness. He called the light day, and he called the darkness night, or prime time. So the evening and the morning were the first day. The flying spaghetti monster was tired of flying, and he couldn't tread water very long, so he said, "Let there be a firmament in the middle of the waters, and let the firmament form covers to one day provide safe harbor for pirates." No, wait, firmament is a stupid word. Let it be called land, since firmament whole sounds even stupider than just plain firmament. And let this land divide the waters from the waters, and let there be a volcano to spew forth beer, which seems like a benevolent idea. And the volcano, it spewed forth beer, and he tasted it and declared it to be quite good. So the evening and the morning were the second day. When the flying spaghetti monster woke, his thoughts were muddled, and he didn't know where he was, slightly hungover, and somewhere out in the Indian Ocean. The FSM found himself a little confused about what he'd created the day before, and so, self-consciously about the previous night's misbehavior, he started barking godlike orders in an attempt to re-establish his powerfulness. And then the flying spaghetti monster decided to organize. He said, "Let the water under the heavens be gathered together in one place, and let the dry land appear. Having forgotten about day two's firmament command, he called the dry land earth, having only yesterday come up with the term land, and the gatherings together of the waters he called the sea. And the flying spaghetti monster dried his noodly appendages under the hot light, and he saw that it was good, but that there was a little problem, for now he had an earth full of land and firmament, which wouldn't do. So he lifted day two's firmament up to the heavens and renamed it heaven. The land from day three he left where it was. Heaven seemed like the sweeter pad, and the flying spaghetti monster decided he'd live there and commute to the earth. The flying spaghetti monster said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, simoleum, rice, and whatever else can be turned into food that resembles my noodly appendages." And he saw that this was an original idea, which was certainly good. That night he drank a little less from the beer volcano, which was relocated to heaven along with the rest of the firmament. So the evening and the morning were the third day. At this point, the flying spaghetti monster, he was a little sore from overexertion. It was difficult for him to find a comfortable resting position during the night, which was darker than squid ink pasta which would eventually be. So he said, "Let there be lights in the heavens, and let there be two lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser to rule the night." And since he had big plans for the next day, he turned in early, so the evening and the morning were the fourth day. So on the fifth day, it was going to be huge, so the flying spaghetti monster rose early. Then he said, "Let the waters abound, let the skies fill with birds, let the earth bring forth creatures according to its own kind, then let them canoodle and be fruitful." And he saw that it was good, and he was feeling pretty proud of himself, so he hit the Beer volcano hard that afternoon. Later that evening, he rode out of bed and he landed hard on the firmament, and this, fair listener, was the true Big Bang. He had a funny feeling and realized in his drunken stupor that he had not only built a factory in heaven that turned out scantily clad women in transparent high heels, but he's also created a midget on earth whom he called man. And he said, "Wow, even I might have overreached my noodly appendages on this one." And not even sure what day it was anymore, he decided to take an extended break from the whole creation gig, and he gave a quick blessing and declared, "From here on out, every Friday is a holiday." The Holy Noodle scriptures use the term midget. Am I allowed to say midget? I mean, is this a cancelable offense, even if it's in the Holy Noodle? Or the short person, we'll have to call them man? But in the Olive in the Garden of Eden, that midget, however, was gosh darn noisy. The flying spaghetti monster couldn't deal with all the complaining down on earth. So the Lord Flying Spaghetti Monster commanded the midget, saying, "Here's an idea. Why don't you collect the rice and what have you, and make pasta in my image? That's what it's there for, and fill your mouth with it and be quiet and peaceful. But be careful with that olive tree, for the olive tree itself is good, but the pit inside is rock hard, and you could choke on it or break a tooth, so you should consider it as evil. If you choke on it, you shall surely die, which would mean I wasted a hell of a lot of time on you, although I'm already having second thoughts." Man wasn't excited about eating pasta 7 nights a week, so the flying spaghetti monster broke down and brought him all the animals. The man renamed each as a food group. Cattle he called beef, pigs he called pork, ham, or bacon. Strangely, man stuck with chicken for chicken. Perhaps man was tired at this point and had lost all his sense of creativity. The flying spaghetti monster suggested that man take a nap, so he did. When he awoke, flying spaghetti monster said, "Man, I have got a surprise for you. Check this out." "What, man?" The midget stared blankly for a moment, then said, "Can I keep her?" And the flying spaghetti monster said, "From now on, man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." And then the flying spaghetti monster thought to himself, "This should be interesting." And the midget man said, "I owe you one." Before long, man broke his damn tooth on that olive pit, and the flying spaghetti monster said, "What did I give you ears for, if not to listen to me?" And man said, "I have ears," and he eventually located them on the side of his head, but not before discovering a small noodly appendage, down there. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings, and they heard the sound of the flying spaghetti monster floating around the Olive Garden of Eden, and they hid and said, "What are you doing here?" Then the flying spaghetti monster said, "Where are you?" And man said, "I heard you floating around over there, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself." And the flying spaghetti monster said, "That's fine, but can you tell me where you hid those delicious breadsticks I haven't eaten since the creation?" "We ate them all," the midget man lied. "There aren't any more breadsticks left." It was then that the flying spaghetti monster saw that the wickedness of man was great on earth, and that every thought of the little midget was ruled by his stomach. So the flying spaghetti monster said, "Fine, I'll just cook for myself." And he produced a great colander of goodness, and he did collect water in the enormous pot, which he heated, and he did drop in a heaping portion of pasta, and slowly simmered the sauce for so long that the original humans weren't even around anymore. When he was finally ready to eat, and he poured the spaghetti and water into the colander of goodness, careful to make sure that the water went down the drain of his sink, and as he was eating, he vacantly considered where the drain did empty, and the flying spaghetti monster said, "Uh-oh." The FSM somehow had caused a global flood. From records, the scriptures say this all happened about 5,000 years ago. What's that, potential Pastafarians? What about all the evidence that the world and the universe are older than 5,000 years? Well, the fossils, the geological column, radiocarbon dating, these are all tests placed before us to test our faith in the flying spaghetti monster. And when new scientific evidence is discovered, Pastafarians know that this is just the invisible, undetectable flying spaghetti monster changing the data in real time with his great Noodley appendage. So, during the creation story, we heard some alliterations to pirates, like firmament ho and having safe harbors for pirates. So you may be asking yourself, what's up with all these pirates? Well, here are a few examples I found across the interwebs and from the gospel of how pirates prove Pastafarianism. Those religious texts tell us that humans evolved from pirates. Consider that the so-called science experts would have you believe that humans evolved from primates, pointing towards the shared 98-99% of DNA between humans and primates. But humans and pirates share upwards of 99.9% of their DNA. So, that belief that pirates are the original Pastafarians, they're the ones that the flying spaghetti monster took as his chosen people. We have a few more lines of evidence. Global warming can be dated back to really starting to ramp up the heat come the 1800s, 1700s. I'll throw a graph on the screen. And with global warming, they say that is because the flying spaghetti monster's chosen people, their chosen profession of piracy, faded into obscurity. See, proof of this is that you had the wind sails of pirate ships back in the 1800s, and then all of a sudden, we started using coal-powered ships to sail, and piracy started to fade into oblivion. There's also persecution from the governments. So you have to take into account that as piracy has gone down, global temperatures has risen. You also must notice that many people dress up as pirates for Halloween every year. Did you ever notice how much colder it is in the months following Halloween? Because the flying spaghetti monster, because he is pleased. How much more evidence do we need that the pirates of old were the original Pastafarians and they carried on the traditions until 20 years ago in secret? And we can thank the great Noodley Appendage for showing Prophet Bobby the hidden truth way back in 2005. Alrighty, it seems to be wrap up time again. So, to start off with, I personally discovered the flying spaghetti monster about a decade ago. Someone I knew at the time, they were a Pastafarian. They had mentioned it in, idle chit chat, but they didn't really go much into it, so I just kind of dismissed it. It was just something that, was out there in the interwebs. But, like most of you probably did or do, you thought it was some kind of joke as well. But within the past few years, I have learned a tad bit more about it. I learned about the letter a college student at the time sent to the Kansas Board of Education. back around 2005. He was weighing in on the intelligent design versus evolution debate being taught in public schools. He just proceeded to say that if we're going to talk about intelligent design, we should make sure all avenues of intelligent design is discussed in high school so everybody gets both sides of the conversation and all sides of one side. And after receiving no response, he did what many did back in those early days of the World Wide Web. He shared the letter online. I learned about the gospel written by the same college student sometime later, whom since has taken his place as a prophet of this new, or in some cases, old, due to rediscovery of it, religion. I do have a copy of the Gospel of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. I use it to help make this video. I also use the interwebs. If you don't want to purchase your own copy, if you don't want to go to the library and see if you can check out a copy if they got one, you can always feel free to visit the church's website for more information. I believe the prophet who runs it also dabbles in software engineering. I'll throw the link up on the screen. Otherwise, just Google it. It'll be one of the first results that pop up. I find the whole story wonderfully amusing, and I find the story behind the church's formation itself, wonderfully amusing as well. And they both have been growing. Members of the Church of Flying Spaghetti Monster, they do religious ceremonies. You can even become ordained. You can wear the holy colander. I just call it a strainer for those same ceremonies. I've seen people or pictures of people donning them in their driver's license photos in these United States of the Americas. Not sure if anyone else has done the same in other countries. It's funny because who knew 20 years ago, after this truth was revealed, it would grow. People may brush this creation story aside being so new, but Mormonism, it's only a few hundred years old, right? Islam, what, 1600 years old? Christianity, 2K? Judaism even older still? And then, if we were to dive into other non-Abrahamic religions, Hinduism, and several of the other religions that I have covered, the other creation stories that I have covered in the 13 plus episodes I've done in my How Are We Here series, shameless self-plug, couldn't we really say the same? I mean, you can't say Pastafarians believe these stories, but you also can't say that they don't believe it, no more than you could for any of the other creation stories I have covered or will cover in the future. What it boils down to is I enjoyed this story, as I have enjoyed all the other stories I have covered. And if you did, or didn't, I just want to go over one of the little models I found on the Flying Spaghetti Monster's website. Something that he may have said himself. Give it a chance. After all, the Flying Spaghetti Monster and its church members agree if after 30 days you find this religion is not for you, feel free to go back to your old religion. I doubt those deities will be that upset with you. Hey y'all, please don't click off the video just yet. I only need 1 or 2 more minutes, so please stick around to the end. I want to thank you all for tuning in this week. I'm sorry that if you were expecting one last week and I didn't get it out, this one took me a little bit longer to tell this rediscovered creation tale. And there are more stories and evidences produced by the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Maybe one day I'll share those stories with you as well, and maybe a little bit of a spin-off type series. I barely touched on the surface, after all, of this gospel of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. There is so much more. We got the end of the global flood, the 8 condiments, or the 8 I'd really rather you didn't, and how you can find some evidence of his Noodley appendage in everyday life. And let's not forget the non-canon tales of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. From what I understand, he may face off against Buddha, Yahweh, Cthulhu, a number of other deities. If you are interested in those, then maybe I'll put those in my other series that I have, Tales from Someone Else. Just let me know by doing the whole YouTube thing. Subscribe, share, comment, and like the video. In the comment, let me know you want to hear more, whether it's from the gospel or the non-canon tales. It's a couple seconds, maybe a minute for you, but it really brightens my day. I often wonder how many of you guys, how many viewers I actually have, hearing and even enjoying these tales. I thank you for that if you do. Any engagement you are willing to do will help me make this channel more popular. And as always, I appreciate the view. If you enjoyed hearing this video and what could be the reason why we are all here, then maybe, just maybe, you're like hearing other creation stories. I have a few other tales of how other cultures thought we got here on the channel. So, you should see last week's video over here, and I'll pop up the How Are We playlist right over there. Take a view. TLDR, I'm just some guy on the YouTube who did some reading on an interesting topic and shared it the best I could. Thank you all again. Please subscribe, and as always, take care, keep safe.